So without any further ado, I am going to welcome our first of three speakers. This panel is all about clean energy means business. There's a lot of overlap between doing things green, doing things sustainably, doing things clean, and doing things that are really good for business and the bottom line, job creation, manufacturing, onshoring, all sorts of great stuff. And we have three tremendous panelists. Our first, but not only all-female panel of the day, to all note. The first speaker is Allison Hull. Allison is here in her position as chair of the board of the Business Council for Sustainable Energy. Allison, it's always great to see you. Turn it over to you.
Great, thank you so much. Oh, you guys can hear me okay, right? Yeah, it seems like it. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dan. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone. As Dan mentioned, it's my honor to serve as the chairman of the board of directors for the Business Council for Sustainable Energy. I also have another day job, which is to represent SEMPRA, which I'll just give a quick little background about SEMPRA, which we own and operate utilities in California and Texas, San Diego Gas and Electric. Scott Peters is our hometown congressman, so he said a bunch of things that I'm going to refer to and repeat. He's our guy. Usually he says San Diego Gas and Electric is the best utility in the country. He didn't say that today. I tried to prompt his staff, but it didn't happen. But that's okay. We are very lucky to have him as our hometown congressman. So we have utilities in California. We've got San Diego Gas and Electric, Southern California Gas Company. And then in Texas, we've got wires and distribution via Encore. And then we do also have an a LNG export business facility in Cameron, Louisiana, trying to build another in Texas. That is not part of the realm of the Business Council or EESI, but part of our business. I wanted to mention it. We also have a very robust business in Mexico that kind of spans the energy chain in Mexico. So that's SEMPRA for you. But as I mentioned, I'm really here to represent BCSE, which is a coalition of companies and trade associations that are about advancing clean energy and decarbonization across the three legs of our stool is how we always used to refer to it. SEMPRA is one of the founding members of BCSE, so we go way back. And so the legs of the stool are energy efficiency, natural gas, and renewables. I think that there's still obviously a place for all of those things. And of course, the Business Council thinks there's a place for all of those, the three legs of all of those stools. We've sustained these many years with those resources as a backdrop. And as Scott Peters mentioned, with energy demand surging the way it is, driven by data centers and AI and electrification and domestic manufacturing, if that comes back in the way that this administration is talking about it coming back, we need to prioritize affordability and reliability. Those are huge issues in California. Those are huge issues for SEMPRA, and I think they're huge issues across the industry. And also, as Scott mentioned, it's not ideological. This is how we meet the moment, how we meet this demand. We need all of these resources. It's just fact and pragmatic, and need not be an ideological debate, though obviously I'm aware that it is. I think that meeting this moment is really an opportunity for the energy industry to demonstrate how we're able to pivot, how we are able to innovate, and have been meeting the moment for these last 100 years, right? I feel like we're always in this situation where we're moving from resource to resource, where things change, where the economy changes, dynamics change, climate change, and we're all trying to address it in some way. And I feel like the energy industry every time comes in and is able to meet the moment and to answer those challenges and demands. I have no idea. Okay, good. I have no idea how long I've been talking, my bad. In terms of meeting the moment, obviously there needs to be a lot of investment. In 2024, the US invested $338 billion in sustainable energy, led by clean power and grid-related spending. Obviously, we need to look at energy efficiency, as we've already talked about. We need to look at grid-enhancing technologies. These are, quick and cost-effective. Hardware and software solutions like dynamic line ratings and topology optimization can be deployed in under a year. to boost grid capacity and reliability. At Sempra, our SDG&E, our electric utility that I mentioned, we're expanding battery storage all the time. We just had an addition of 100 megawatts to our West Side Canal facility. We need to look at supply side solutions. We need to look at clean power growth. Last year, 93% of new U.S. power capacity came from utility scale solar, wind, and storage. Scott mentioned that that's what they're doing in China, and so if we're looking to China, then maybe we should be looking more at wind and solar and not taking away those credits. And I'll end there and just say that together these technologies and investments form the foundation of a more resilient, affordable, and sustainable energy future. And those are the things that really matter to the BCSE, to all of our companies and trade associations, and of course to Sempra as well. Like I said, affordability and reliability are really key going forward. Sorry, Dan.
No, not at all. That was great. That's BCSE covers too much. How can you possibly fit that in for 5 minutes?
And then Sempra in there too.
I know, it's just too much. Anyway, but that was great. Thank you, Allison. Next up, we will be hearing from Natasha Shah. Natasha is Senior Vice President of Government Strategy for the National Association of Energy Service Companies. Natasha, thanks for being on our panel today. Do Tim proud. Yeah.
Let me turn it on. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Great. Mic check again. I want to tell you a little bit about NAESCO, and I'm going to talk about what we call energy savings performance contracts. So our National Association of Energy Service Companies, we have about 150 members, and we're solely focused on energy savings performance contracts. It's about a $7 billion industry year over year. And what we do is we're able to go into a municipality, university, school, hospital, or the federal government and holistically looking at their infrastructure and coming up with energy efficient ways that we can make them more efficient. But what we do is we basically reduce their utility bill. Then we go in and guarantee the energy savings. We built everything and we finance it over time. So it's not costing additional taxpayer dollars. So, when we look at, both sides of Congress, this has been a very attractive and supportive program. And really what it's about is what we call a leveraging effect. And so what that means is that if we can figure out how to apply some small dollars, whether it's utility rebates, tax incentives, grants, credits, and even in a small amount, it can make the project even larger and more attractive to these different public entities. The reason why these projects that we do, energy savings performance contracts, are so great is, we're already struggling with deferred maintenance and capital funding. And so this is a great way for us to be able to do these kind of projects with public agencies. So mine's a lot shorter than Allison's and very focused industry, but thank you for having us.
We will definitely come back to a lot of those points, Natasha. And our third panelist today is Sapna Gheewala-Dowla. Sapna is Associate Vice President of Policy and Research at the Alliance to Save Energy. I consider myself a proud Alliance alumnus. Sapna, it's great to have you on the panel today.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you putting this together. And yes, first and foremost, thank you to you and EESI for putting on this panel and putting on the Expo. It's definitely a place where I remember when I used to be very young in the industry to come to enjoy, to understand the space. And then now being able to participate and partake and then see everyone in the room interested in this space, appreciate that as well. But let me tell you a little bit about the Alliance to Save Energy. The Alliance to Save Energy is a nonprofit. We are a fuel-neutral energy efficiency organization. We are also bipartisan, so we work on both sides of the aisle. We have champions on the Democratic side as well as the Republican side, because we know energy efficiency is a very bipartisan conversation. You'll notice in the last couple of years, it may have become a little bit more partisan, but we're making sure to work with both sides of the aisle, as well as our agencies, DOE and EPA, as well as the administration, to make sure that energy efficiency is spoken about in a bipartisan manner, is understood to be a part of the energy policy toolbox that we want to participate in. And then just making sure that we are also working together holistically and talking about energy efficiency as a first tool that we can use to decrease our overarching demand. So I talked a little bit about kind of who we are, where we're coming from. We also work on two sides of the coin as well. We work on the bipartisan side on the Hill with the agencies, with the administration, and we also work with our members. And those members include utilities, technology manufacturers, businesses, other nonprofit organizations. We work very closely with the ladies at the table, and making sure that we are making sure energy efficiency is a part of that conversation when we're talking about energy policy. And really thinking about how energy efficiency decreases our overarching demand. That can then help us right-size the technologies that we're putting in place. It's a part of any type of fuel source. So we want to talk about gas, we want to talk about electric, we want to talk about nuclear. Energy efficiency can be a part of any of those sources, and it's really an umbrella to make sure that we are using any and all of our resources more efficiently and more effectively and more cost effectively as well. That's a little bit about the Alliance.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Sapna. So the one thing that you all have in common, the three of you in your organizations, is that you work very closely. You either represent or you work very closely with leaders from all sorts of industries, right? Sapna, I'm maybe a little bit more familiar with the Alliance's membership, but it's a pretty broad and diverse membership and really represents a lot of different sectors of the economy. Allison, I'd like to start with you, and then we can go down the line. What's top of mind of these leaders that you're working with? What are they thinking about right now? And how are they sort of seeing the landscape and seeing the challenges that are facing them? And how are they making plans to deal with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, the Business Council, we have quite a diverse membership. We have associations, we have companies, big and small. And so we really do have a broad view into what business is thinking. It won't surprise you to hear what came top of mind to me, which of course is predictability and certainty. That's what we all want. That's what business wants. And I feel like personally, we all want in life a little bit of certainty and predictability that would help. But predictability around policy frameworks, I think is really one of the top things that businesses are looking for. Long-term predictable policy frameworks, so we can plan projects, allocate capital. I mean, we've got our business plans 5, 10 years down the road. So to not know what the policy landscape is going to look like in 5, 10 years, creates challenges. And more, it feels like as the years have gone by, I'm not on the business side, but that's what it feels like on the policy side. Obviously, along with that, there are a few other concerns. When I was thinking about that question, as you were just saying it, and as we talked about it previously, what came to my mind was about resiliency and affordability, like I mentioned earlier. That's certainly top of mind for SEMPRA and for utility companies like us, and in particular in California and the western states. A big focus for us is obviously on wildfires. SEMPRA, we've managed to go 17 years without a fire, and we're very proud of that and have worked very hard to make that happen. But obviously that's top of mind for those Western companies. And it's not really a Western issue anymore. It's really something that's kind of taking over. Affordability, I think, is an issue around the country. I think all CEOs, all service providers are worrying about that, as we all worry about the economy right now. So obviously, and it ties into the resiliency that I was talking about, as we often tell our regulators that in order to up resiliency, that costs money. Undergrounding all those lines costs a ton of money, and in fact, in our last general rate case, when we went to the CPUC and said we wanted to underground, I'm not going to get the stats right, but it was something like 600 miles of lines. And they were like, you can do 125 miles of lines. And we were like, oh, we've already done that. Thanks. Because they want us to use covered conductors because it's much cheaper, but it's much less effective. So I'll stop there and let others speak.
I forgot. I'm supposed to transition up here for Q&A because after the canned question, Allison let the cat out of the bag. We talk about these questions in advance. So thanks for that. Really pull the curtain back. But after, we definitely will have questions for in the room too. So as we're listening to what Natasha and Sapna are about to say, if you're thinking of questions, I will do my best to get to you. So Natasha, same question to you. Business leaders in your industry, but also, right, you're working with, you mentioned the mush market, right? You're talking with mayors and city managers and university presidents and facilities people, all of that. What are they thinking and how are they seeing the challenges and how are they planning their route around them?
Yeah, so I look at it twofold. So one is when we think about business leaders, we think about the mush market. I mentioned the municipalities, universities, schools, hospitals, and the federal government. And then I also think about it from the actual our members who are, folks that are actually executing the work for these customers. So it's kind of twofold. So when I think about, yeah, a mayor, a city manager, I think, as Allison mentioned, there is some uncertainty. And of course, we recently had an act of a new bill. And, a lot of the tax credits that get used on a lot of our projects has created some uncertainty if we can execute and leverage those tax credits as quickly as possible. But, I mentioned that, we don't typically need upfront capital for the projects that we do, with energy savings performance contracts. But I also mentioned the beauty of the leveraging effect. And so if there's an opportunity to leverage some funding, so what we're seeing is that, right now, mayors, cities, and schools particularly, deferred maintenance is a huge issue. And so there's not enough money to go around to improve these facilities, like ever. There's never going to be enough money. And so what we like to always tell those leaders, the mayors, the city managers, superintendents, is, use performance contracting as a tool in your tool belt. Be able to go in there and say, hey, we can look at this holistically. We can figure out a way to help you achieve your infrastructure upgrades without spending money up front. And so we really push that message, and it allows them to say, okay, you know what, this is an option. Hey, I can get all this infrastructure with energy efficiency up front, and I don't have to pay anything extra. Now, obviously, these projects are financed. So they are paying some principal and interest, but overall, we're not increasing their spending. And so, the fact that you're talking about not having to go in and put in a new boiler or a new HVAC system and having to allocate capital for that, they can reallocate that capital somewhere else. So our projects are attractive. And then let me add that we not only guarantee the energy savings, then we go in, we'll measure and verify that we do this long term, and then we make sure that we have operations and maintenance. So we're looking at it for the long term, not just a life cycle of the equipment that we put in. So not just a short term interest, but a long term effort over time. So it's very attractive. And then looking at it from our business leaders, I think I mentioned the concern over the tax credits and some of the uncertainty, even with 179D. I think what we have to do is figure out a way to pivot. I think, as Sapna said, energy efficiency has been bipartisanly supported. Our job is to educate and to continue to educate in this market. And what I've told a lot of our members and leaders, business leaders, is, hey, we're just going to have to pivot and get creative and find more opportunities. And I'll talk more about that when we come on the topic of public-private partnerships, but that would be something I want to hit on, Dan.
All right. Note to the audience, ask a question about public-private partnerships. Sapna, you spend a lot of time with business leaders. You bring them up here as well and help them engage with members. But what are they thinking about? What are the challenges they see in your world at the Alliance?
Yeah, that as you guys were speaking, that I was thinking about, some of the top of mind energy efficiency related themes that we're seeing in this space right now. And Allison, you hit on one, which was kind of market certainty and scalability. That's definitely a big one. But there's also kind of the digitization realm and the active efficiency portion of what is happening around energy efficiency. Of course, the cost effectiveness and bipartisan alignment around energy efficiency. And then lastly, the reliability and resilience that you guys mentioned a little bit ago as well. The Alliance has luckily had the opportunity to showcase a lot of the different benefits that we have around energy efficiency. And luckily, there's more than the 5 that I can count on my hand. But our main focuses right now are, of course, affordability, because this administration has said that they want to decrease bills by about 50%. And so we want to help make sure energy efficiency is a part of that conversation. It is a tool in the toolbox. We also do focus on the economic impacts and the economic sides of energy efficiency. And then jobs. Jobs is a big one because in this industry, the business leaders are thinking, how am I going to grow my business, especially around efficiency? And if you want to grow your business, you need dedicated staff, you need jobs, and you need that workforce training to participate in that space. And so luckily, energy efficiency does have a great story around jobs, especially in the full clean energy industry. So it's definitely a great statistic to bring up. It's definitely a great thing that we want to make sure to talk about in the efficiency realm. But it's not only about the economics, not only about the affordability, but also the accessibility to energy efficiency technologies. Sometimes it's harder to get access to them, especially in rural areas, especially in tribal areas. And so making sure that these business leaders are thinking in that space of how do we get access to energy efficiency technologies in all of these different realms is very important. Now, a little bit more about the kind of digitization and active efficiency portion of energy efficiency. There is that strong interest in how we're intellectually using our energy management systems. So whether it's connected lighting, whether it's predictive controls, whether it's AI-focused grid software, how can businesses improve and boost their performance? How can they improve reliability for customers as well as themselves? And then how can they enhance the customer experience overall if they're coming from a utility side? So like I mentioned, we focus on utilities, we focus on manufacturers, on other organizations in the industry. And so making sure that they are communicating what they need out to the public, especially around energy efficiency, is very important and top of mind.
Great. Thanks. Those are great thoughts. We're going to pause the program for just a moment because we have a special guest joining us. I am a Vermonter. I'm from Graniteville, 05654. Now my senator is Chris Van Hollen, and we'll be hearing from him a little bit later today. But we are graced because Senator Peter Welch is here, great champion of energy efficiency, great champion of clean energy. Thank you, Senator Welch, for making the long way over from the Senate side to your old stomping grounds here in the House. I'd love to invite you to the lectern to share some thoughts, and thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to see you.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited to be here with you. We've been working on energy efficiency for over a decade. When I first came to Congress, that was the first thing we plunged into, and we sponsored the Homes Act, which ultimately became law as part of the IRA. But water. Oh, yeah. But here's the thing that is the moment. Pardon me. We made incredible progress fighting uphill. You remember Waxman-Markey? Energy efficiency that we passed in the House, that was going to account for 40% of the carbon reductions. Wouldn't we be in a better place had we gotten Joe Lieberman in the Senate to vote for it? I got a little thing in my throat, so you're going to have to bear with me. And then we struggled and struggled. We got the IRA passed. And it was the first time in the history of the country where we had public policy and public money backing a policy of efficiency. It worked. 400,000 jobs, $300 billion in private investment. And we were, oh, by the way, reducing carbon emissions. We got to keep that on the down low in the world we're in. But we know that was happening because what we were doing is saving money. We were creating jobs. We were getting the benefit of technology so we could do more with less. What's wrong with that, right? It also reflected to me, we had these years of climate denial that we were fighting. And one of the reasons that I got involved in energy efficiency when I came in 2007 was because I saw that as a place where there was potentially bipartisan capacity to move forward, because we weren't arguing about whether climate change existed or didn't, and we weren't arguing about which is the preferable fuel source. We all have our points of view about that. But it was an area where I could get some of my colleagues, including Dave McKinley, who was a very, very close ally from West Virginia and defender of coal. We could get him to join with me from Green Mountain State of Vermont on working on sensible policies that were going to be beneficial, whether you came from coal country or you came from Green Mountain State of Vermont. And ultimately, we were successful in the IRA, and then everything that you've been working for, everything that you've been advocating for, everything that you've been doing on energy efficiency, you had an opportunity to get a little wind at your back and to prove that it works. So that's the good news. The bad news is that the Trump administration has lost its mind when it comes to climate change. I mean, that's real, and they won, and they are, unfortunately, climate deniers. I mean, I just heard Lee Zeldin on the radio talking about, quote, climate religion, as if that is a way to deny that climate change exists. And look at what happened in Texas. Look at what happened in Vermont with floods the last couple of years. Look what happened in North Carolina. So there is a return to the policymaking levels of some of the great minds of the 17th century. That's what we're dealing with. So that's discouraging. But the reality that can't be denied is that the demand for energy is going up, and it's not going to relent. Climate change is getting more ferocious with its effects. The negative impacts of climate change know no boundaries. Red state, blue state, you're all on the path of something bad that's coming your way with a weather event. And what also can't be denied is that the energy efficiency technologies are more important than ever so that we can meet the energy demand that is increasing, and we can't do it with generation alone. And in fact, 94% of the new energy that was generated in the last 2 years was clean energy and battery storage technology. So you take that out of the equation, including efficiency, then where do you get the power? You can't complete a generating station that's oil or gas or, God forbid, coal in any kind of reasonable period of time. So, you know, stay the course is what we have to do, and what I have to do, and actually what all of us have to do is politically get support back in the Congress where the majority gets it, that there's nothing wrong with a policy that helps us create jobs, save energy, and clean up our environment. So I'm sad to be here in a certain way, because your hard work in those dark years before there was any confidence that energy efficiency really would work, you plowed through that day after day, year after year, session after session, and you ultimately succeeded. And then when you succeeded, you did the work and showed, hey, wait a minute, this is really working. And now we've had the setback with the Trump administration tearing up the IRA. But what we're also seeing is some pushback from Republicans whose districts are now being affected, that projects that they thought were going to be in their district are suddenly they're on the chopping block. So the confidence that I have going forward is that this is a proven way to make progress on jobs, on cost, and on cleaner communities. And the benefits of what you're doing are not a red state, blue state benefit. It helps us achieve what is a common objective, and that is to have the energy we need for a new economy that is requiring more generation. But it's with an understanding that whatever it is we generate, the more of it we can use rather than squander, the more affordable it's going to be, and the better, obviously, for the environment it's going to be. So we've got to stay the course, is the bottom line here. It's not a question of trying to figure out, is this the right course or not? It's not about proving proof of concept. It's about dealing with a political reality that is bizarre, where we're turning our back on this opportunity that's right in front of us. And you know what this says to me, and this is a real struggle across the board right now. So much of the decisions we make in life are whether we're fearful or we're confident. And a country is the same way. Is it fearful or is it confident? And what's happened is a confident country and a confident person does not wake up and deny the problem that is waiting for them. They face it. They don't know whether they'll be able to solve it, but they know they can't run from it or deny it. Climate change is real. What you've been doing is facing that in a confident and practical way. What do we have to do to address it? How do we get more out of what it is we are generating? And that's, by the way, a very hard thing to do. You know, it takes scientists and engineers. It takes organizers. It takes trial and error. It takes financial setbacks, but moving ahead. But the confident person in the confident country, that's what makes life go round. You're dealing with something that's real, it has to be faced. And when you do, as you did with your work and with the IRA, the public support, you created 400,000 jobs. You created investment of $400 billion, and you reduced carbon emissions. And every little bit, every person who did something contributed to that effort. So what we have to do politically is get back to a confidence in this country that the better way to approach climate change is not to deny it, but is to acknowledge it and say, all right, what do we got to do? How are we going to address it? So don't give up at all, because you succeeded. And what we together have to do is get us back to that kind of confident, forward-facing approach that a successful country has to have in order to sustain its success and create opportunity for all Americans. And I am so happy to be part of this winner crowd that is here, that has done so much. And my pledge to you is that as long as you're working on energy efficiency, I'll be working on energy efficiency and public policy that makes your job a bit easier, not easy, but a bit easier and not tougher. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Welch. You know, the timing worked out really great, because you're the perfect speaker for this panel, because this panel is all about trading, finding trade-ups, not trade-offs, and doing so in a business-friendly way.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
I understand that you have maybe time for a question from the audience. Is that still the case? So any
the answer is Chris Van Hollen has been a terrific partner on this all along. So
good. Well, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Question in the audience? I certainly have one. Sure.
No, I just want to thank you, Senator Welch. I mean, you've been a huge proponent of performance contracting, and just so you guys are aware, we've been working on improving state and local government access to performance contracting, and
Right.
It's something that we're going to continue to work on. So we really appreciate your support in our industry and everything you've done for us.
No, thank you. That's the kind of question I like.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I'm in the absence of hands going up. I have a question. So, Senator, you mentioned the flooding in Vermont. I grew up in Graniteville, but I went to high school in Barrie, which is where a lot of those terrible floods took place. How are people doing? First of all, it's been I know it's happened 2 years in a row. So I'm curious how people are doing, and also how are you approaching sort of the reality that those floods were exacerbated by climate change with your work here in Congress to advance things like energy efficiency?
Yeah, well, first of all, these floods are horrible. If it's your farm, your home, your business, it's really devastating. And what I've seen, we had July 10th, we had floods in 2023, 2024, and then even a few on July 10th in 2025. And it's really heartbreaking because in the immediate aftermath, there is an enormous amount of rallying around. And then folks whose homes are flooded, it's interesting. Cousins that they didn't know they had show up from far away, friends that they didn't know they had show up. And there's this enormous community effort in the shock of the moment to help muck out that mud. And it's really, really hard and awful. And then in that aftermath, people start going back to their lives. And then if it's your farm and the field has been totally flooded and the crop has totally been destroyed, it's your home that's been wrecked, the pain goes on. And what I have been putting my energy in is trying to come up with a reform for FEMA, because FEMA helps in the immediate aftermath, but then in the long-term recovery, where select boards struggling to get approval to put in a 36-inch culvert because an 18-inch culvert it just won't do. Same thing will happen next year. Or they're getting hassled about what kind of gravel to use when they are putting the subsurface down to reclaim a road. I've put forward legislation basically about reforming FEMA and putting control much more in hands of local officials, because the decision-making has to be made promptly. The action has to be taken quickly. And you can't do that if you're going through a FEMA Washington-based, or in the case of Vermont, our sign-off person from FEMA was in Puerto Rico. So you've got somebody in the town of Suffolk who was a town clerk and is now trying to figure out how to fix the roads because it's a population of 300. And she's getting a call about the gravel size that was used 12 inches in subsurface before there'll be approval to do it. So this just doesn't work. So what I'm trying to do is make it practical. And the reform really is about having decisions be made and power be distributed locally, because that's where there's a sense of urgency and a sense of accountability versus have it be micromanaged from Washington. But it's very, very painful for families who've been through it, but made more painful when they can't get their phone call answered, where there doesn't seem to be an answer to the obvious question, and where we've had local people that have had more authority, it's gone much better. But bottom line, we got to do something about climate change, not just have it keep on hammering.
Yep. Well, thank you, Senator Welch, for joining us today. I know you've got a busy schedule. I hope you have a great August recess. And best of luck. And it's always so great to see you. Thanks for stopping by today.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it. Yeah. Good to see you. You doing all right?
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Team Welch, for all your help as well. All right. We're going to pick up where we left off. Literally. And we have some time for questions. So my friend Isabel has a microphone. And if anyone would like to ask a question. Oh, we have one right here in the front.
So I'm Barbara Tyron with ACOR. I've heard a number of themes here today, both from Representative Peters as well as yourselves, around increasing prices possibly in the electricity arena, increasing demand, uncertainty in the policy realm, and then the possibility of public-private partnerships. So I would love to explore that topic. Thank you.
Perfect, Barbara. Thank you. Natasha, I think you have to go first on this one.
Yeah, because I really wanted to talk about it. So I talked a lot about energy savings performance contracts today, and it obviously is a public-private partnership. You're bringing, working with public agencies, with private capital. But, as you look beyond energy savings performance contracts, I mean, the industry's pivoting a bit with energy as a service, as well as what we're calling P3, which is public-private partnerships out there. And so you'll see like a lot of universities doing like large, what they call public-private partnerships. But our organization is actually leading an effort in the state of Pennsylvania. It's first of its kind to put out what we're calling Sustainable Capital Improvement Program. And we actually have legislation that just came out last week. We're super excited about it, but it's allowing the state to work with local government on being able to do public-private partnerships. And what we're realizing is, much as we support energy efficiency in facilities, is there not a lot of times enough energy efficiency to pay for itself, right? When we're looking on return on investment and we're looking at cost allocation. So being able to pivot to energy as a service, where now you have a mayor or a city manager or a superintendent just making a smaller service payment, but getting all the infrastructure, but then having somebody else own, operate, build, and maintain it is hugely valuable. So we're hoping to get that legislation passed, and it's a pilot. And if it works, we will continue to expand it, similar to how performance contracting stood up. So
Great, thanks.
thank you.
Thanks, Natasha. That was a great answer. Sapna, do you have anything you'd like to chime in on with public-private partnerships? And then Allison will give you an opportunity to, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Again, great question. Appreciate it. I think from the Alliance's perspective, there's three things that we really want to focus on. And we love public-private partnerships, right? Because that's a way to really scale some of the things that we want to get done, especially in the efficiency space, like Natasha was saying. But it's really about the partnerships and the outcomes that come about, right? Energy efficiency does have some great benefits, and it's really showcasing the M&V and really showcasing how we have done what we can do. And it's also, of course, about scaling those programs. We work with a lot of the governmental organizations, such as DOE, such as EPA, and their programs that they have in BTO, the Building Technologies Office, or even EPA at the Energy Star space. Those are really great public-private partnership examples. And what this industry does need, again, is kind of that market certainty and appropriations to feel like they are going to come continuously, so these projects can really actually get to scale. And so public-private partnerships are a really great way for these guys to get this work out there in a timely manner, and not just have some of this work stuck in the R&D phase. But it's also very important in terms of the innovation piece as well. And so translating innovation to implementation is something that we do as part of our active efficiency work, our Energy 2040 work at the Alliance, but also just working with the industry to figure out how better we can get this work out there quicker and more affordably. Because at the end of the day, we want to focus on affordability, we want to focus on accessibility. And so it's not just about, the technology vendors, but it's about the strategic partnerships that they can create in communities with governmental organizations, as well as the business community as well.
Great, thanks. Allison, do you have anything you'd like to say? Public-private
I would
partnerships?
just vigorously agree with my co-panelists here. It just, public partnerships are really essential. Being able to work with the federal government to move things forward and innovate is really important. We work, just as an example, Semper works a lot with the National Weather Service. I mentioned our wildfire issues before. We have a new wildfire resilience and climate center, and they rely on us, we rely on them. Cameras, all the information is shared, and I just think that's really essential, and it's been huge in helping us mitigate the impact of fires.
Thanks, Allison. I think we have time for one more question from the audience. If anyone has a hand going up, I'm locked and loaded with questions. So, all right. Well, in the absence of questions, I'm going to start with this one, and maybe I don't know. This will be a grab bag, and it will probably be the last. So this could also be your opportunity if you have any closing remarks. So you all represent a lot of different clean energy interests, and I think Senator Welch was saying some really interesting things about how all of this good stuff, why isn't it here anymore? Do you have any thoughts about how the clean energy sector broadly defined could come together and tell a more cohesive sort of narrative story that doesn't focus so much on who's winning and losing at the moment, but maybe focuses a little bit more on sort of how, all of this stuff is necessary and good? Sapna, you gave me one of these, so I'm going to assume that means that you might want to go first. Then maybe we could hear from Natasha and then end with Allison.
It's on. Oh, this is on. Yes, you're reading my brain. When I'm talking to our members, when I'm talking to the folks on the Hill, when I'm talking to the administration, it's all honestly about the cohesion of our sector. And you see a lot where everyone's doing so many things. There's so many technical pieces to the energy industry. But at the end of the day, we need to work together to get some of the stuff pushed out. And I use the example of, we don't want to put all our eggs in one basket. That goes to fuel types, that goes to the work we're doing, And we hear that, during Easter, when you're, picking up those eggs when you're younger. And so I apply that to a lot of the work that we do at the Alliance and the work that I do in the energy efficiency space, because we really want to show that kind of integrated systems conversation and how energy efficiency, renewables, gas, the grid integration piece, battery storage can all really work together to help decrease demand, to help get energy where traditionally it hasn't been, to make sure prices are affordable, to make sure rural locations have access to these energy sources. And so it's really important in that space that we stay cohesive, and we can do that through, of course, elevating some of the connective tissues that we have. Energy efficiency is a little bit of that umbrella where you want to use it first, you want to decrease your demand, you want to make sure that you are right sizing the solutions that you're putting into place. We have some of these technologies here and right now. I know the senator talked a little bit about, building out potential plants eventually, and that's fine. We want to build plants, great, we're moving on. But right now is where we have energy efficiency, and those plants are going to take years and years to build while we have load growth issues today, while we have demand issues today. And so making sure that we are utilizing the tools that we have to the extent that we can today and right now.
Great, thank you. Natasha?
So, a lot of times I think when we think about energy efficiency and renewable energies, renewable energy, they're done kind of siloed and independently. And so one of the major benefits of leveraging energy savings performance contracting is combining and integrating and looking at holistic. So a lot of times when our members go into a facility, they look at everything. I think I mentioned from EV charging to upgrading the HVAC to looking at solar on the roof. And so, the list kind of goes on and on. They look at waste production, they look at water efficiency. And so I think being able to, when we talk about a cohesive story, we're looking at what we can do within buildings holistically. And so I think from our perspective, it's like bringing all these technologies together, not looking at it just independently, but cohesively as well.
Great, thanks. And Allison, we'll give you the last word today.
Wow, thank you. And I had many of the first words, so thank you, appreciate it. The Business Council for Sustainable Energy, that's why it was formed. That was the whole point, is to bring these folks together in the energy industry with these, the common three legs of the stool that I mentioned, of, natural gas and energy efficiency and renewables, and how they all work together and how we can all work together to, move forward the adoption of efficient, cost-effective, clean energy solutions that, was the purpose of the BCSE and why SEMPRA became a member. And it's the heart and soul of our president, Lisa Jacobson, who I should have mentioned earlier, who couldn't be here today, which is why I'm here, unfortunately for you guys. But she really does an amazing job of pushing our mission forward and of promoting those industries and of bringing our industries together. And the Alliance is a member of the Business Council. So obviously that was why we were formed. I think it's really important. And I think that, the point that Scott Peters made both about ideology and that this isn't an ideological argument. I know it feels like it. But at the end of the day, it's not. It's really about practical pragmatism and about education. And that really resonated with me too. I forget that sometimes, that that's our job. That's what we're here to do, is to educate, and better to do it as a team and as a coalition.
Well, that is a great way to end the panel. And Allison and Natasha and Sapna, thank you for being great panelists today. Thank you.